The place I wanted to start though was really
Hmm.
picking up on something you said in the previous episode that we recorded, because you are also talking about Claude Code 2.0 and the latest models from Sonnet 4.5.
Hmm.
And you ran through your context windows, your utilization really quickly, seems like.
Right.
Um,
Sorry, I was on a time crunch, obviously. Yeah.
and it got me, kind of thinking about the purpose of a lot of these sub agents is really to create a division of labor and make sure we've got the agents that really just focus on what they do and they do it well and they can hand things off, whether that's in parallel or otherwise. But you can contain that context within each agent. So you can sort of, bundle up just what's necessary for that agent, which in theory should save us in our context usage. Yet you're already running into problems immediately. So it seems like we have not totally solved this problem. I don't know, does that trigger any thoughts about the stuff you've been playing with and how you've
Yeah.
been
So
improving?
yeah, exactly. A lot of my life, Jason, these days is trying to figure out how much I need to pay for a subscription on one hand, and how much I can get in terms of utilization for the other. So I'm looking more and more towards the unlimited ones, and I guess as somebody who uses Anthropic tools most of the time, maybe I should have put my money more on the Anthropic side than the OpenAI side. But yes, currently I'm trying to go in and essentially use a scalpel to manage my context in order to make sure that what I'm sending off is correct in order to get the answer that I want back.
Yeah, I'm finding myself doing the exact same thing. This term context engineering, I think, is something we're starting to now use in our conversations a bit more.
Right.
This here's another article that just came out from Anthropic. They've been putting out some really great updates and blog posts and just, kind of news and posts like this pretty regularly. And you can just sort of get a sense from them that this is the direction they're heading with subagents and this kind of autonomous type of behavior. And that term context engineering, but we were in New York for our onsite last week, and it was kind of interesting to see that language start to show up even amongst our product folks. And so it's definitely a thing. People say context is king and all that, and it's bigger than that. And in terms of like we went from prompt engineering now to this term, and it just shows the transition, I guess, the natural transition of things.
Yeah, totally agree.
So what I thought I'd just show in the time that we had left is couple of things from within Claude Code. Before I go in there, I'll show you this. I've got this app that I built right before our onsite to just sort of help put together a workshop that we were doing around some of these things. And it's just a really basic app, a web app running an HTML file with some JavaScript that talks about the core web vitals, the sort of basics around Google's performance metrics. And it's in this like coral color. It looks pretty good. It's using, some stuff that I would probably use for myself, but it definitely doesn't meet the standards of maybe like a Datadog web app that you might put out or a blog post. It just doesn't have that, that look and feel. And it also doesn't have the official
Right.
colors and that kind of thing. And there's like official palettes that you have to use usually for putting out stuff, regardless of where you work. And so what I thought I'd do is just go into Claude Code and see if we can create a sub agent that's going to handle that type of thing and make sure that, we are covering all our bases and making sure that we hit our brand guidelines that we want
Ah,
to maintain and things like that. So I'm
that's a
over
good
here in
idea.
my terminal.
I only
Yeah.
thought about code. Yeah, you're thinking about
Yeah. I
design.
think
I like this. Yeah.
it's something that, is very important and often gets overlooked. I think when people are putting together proof of concepts and little MVPs and stuff like that. So it's something I'm starting to think a little bit more of in terms of little applications that I'm putting out there in the wild. If it's going to be something that's related to the work I'm doing in Datadog, I might as well try to stick with the colors that we're used to seeing and using. So, but anyway, I'm going to open up Claude here and we'll fire up and see what we can do. Now you'll notice if you haven't been into Claude Code recently that the interface has changed just a little bit. We noticed, or we spoke about it in our previous episode, that the icon has changed up in the upper left. Now, Ryan, you were pointing out that there's even a difference further depending on if you're logged in or not. What's it look like if
Yeah,
you're logged in or not logged
it
in?
seems to be like some sort of space race. I'm using this, trying to make a pun here, but basically, when you log in, there's a little. I think it's a crab, the Claude Code crab, and a moon in the background. It looks like they're possibly out in space. It's kind of interesting, but it feels like the ASCII art game is being bumped up every time somebody has a new release. I'm not sure if you noticed the Codex CLI one, but it's got a rotating logo. I think they're really showing off. But yes, I'm here for the ASCII graphics and the command line tools for sure.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think it's fun. All right, so we're in Claude Code here. Let's take a look at maybe a few of the new things that we didn't cover in the previous episode. So if we just hit slash and take a look at all of our new little commands that are in here. Ryan, you went over a few of the ones that I think are new and important to point out. But if we scroll down here to all the way down to the output style, have you tried out this
Oh.
output style one option
No,
yet?
no, I thought I checked all the new commands. No, I definitely did not.
Okay. So output style, you can see just sets this, it's just called the output style, but what it refers to is how you are communicating with Claude Code. Essentially, the way we've always been doing it is what the default option here is, where Claude's just going to do the coding task and then it's just going to give you responses on what it's done. But now you can see we've got a couple of other options here. We've got the explanatory option, which says Claude is going to explain its implementation choices and code based patterns. And then down here, this is the one that looks very interesting and kind of fun, is the Claude is going to pause and ask you to write small pieces of code just to sort of, I guess, keep you sharp and keep you, understanding and learning all this stuff, which I think is pretty neat. So,
Yeah.
have you heard of anybody talking about this kind of stuff, or is this completely
No,
new
but
to
I'm
you?
definitely suffering from a Google brain. I think it's a term where I feel like I'm learning, but I can't necessarily type TypeScript code. So this actually might be good for me as someone who says at least that they're trying to learn JavaScript by using Gen AI tools. So maybe the proof will be in the pudding on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely it's nice to see in there because some of us do want to genuinely learn. Like I'm with you. I do this, certain ways to sort of speed things up, but I'm also very interested in how we got from A to B, and I don't want to lose sight of that. And I think having some tools that are very intentional about that, means a lot to me because that's definitely a big priority. The other thing too with the output styles, you can, if you don't like the options that are there, you can create your own custom output style here with this option as well, which I have not played with, but you can imagine, I just want to get a little bit more customized. Something else that I think you briefly touched on in the previous one was the rewind option, right? You
Right.
did look at the rewind, but this security review one is brand new. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've definitely not seen it. And this would be handy for me. Again, learning JavaScript. I run into issues in terms of package versions and security. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and just hit enter there, and what it's gonna
Okay.
do, I've ran this previously. I don't know if it's gonna come up with anything on this code base because it's just a simple HTML. But what it does is automatically scan for security vulnerabilities, which I think is super handy for those of us who security is not necessarily our first
Great.
language. It's not something we, are necessarily educated on as much as we need to be. And as quickly as we're creating code and pushing things out, it's something we do have to keep in mind. So I like that this is now baked in, assuming that the results, kind of move the needle a little bit.
Yeah, is it checking your pull requests as well? That's pretty cool. Like that's actually a problem that I've had before is that API keys can leak in pull request descriptions generated by Gen AI tools. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you can see that it's using a few different tools in the process here. So I don't know if we'll be able to dive into what those tools are, but now it's showing 6 tools and a little over 35K tokens that were used. All right, so
Right.
it's finished its analysis here. Let me scroll back up here and says it's found no security vulnerabilities. That's good.
I ran into this interestingly enough just yesterday in terms of ARIA labels and reduced motion support. So I've learned a little bit about
Hmm.
accessibility as a result of a different scan, but that's cool that that would come up here.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, and definitely gives me peace of mind before I go pushing things up into GitHub or wherever. So, okay, well, let's look at one other thing too, since we were talking about sub agents, and I think
Right.
we've covered agents before and sub agents, and that's really they're kind of the same thing here. But if we hit just type in agents, we can get into the little wizard here to create something or edit things if we'd like to. And you can see I've got a number of agents already created. And it's showing 6 up at the top here, 3 of which I've created myself, but there's this also built-in agents down at the bottom. And you and I were talking previously in Claude Code. Maybe I wasn't paying attention real close. I'll have to go back and maybe watch some previous videos, but there may have been one built-in agent, but I don't remember the status line setup or the output style setup one. We did just
Yeah,
look
I
at the
definitely
output
don't.
style. So that seems to be like a new thing. But anyway, we've got 6 of them in here. You can really only just kind of get into the ones that you've created. So I've got a few in here that we can dig in just a little bit and take a look at. This is an agent that I have created essentially to look at my web app and then suggest some improvements that can be made to the application just based on UI UX experience. And so the way that I created this, let me scroll back to the bottom here, is I'll back all the way out, is just hit create new agent. And then I'm going to choose this as just part of the project. You could create something, a higher scope in your personal level as well. And then I also went with generate with Claude. And then from here,
This is amazing.
it's just a matter of, yeah, it's pretty fun. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of describing to Claude Code what you want your agent to do. And it will create all that stuff that you saw when I showed you the agent markdown. It will generate all that for you. And then you can go in and tweak it and make it, a little bit more how you'd like as well.
I
You can
think
also
maybe
go,
you think I knew this. I've been adding markdown files old school
oh
for
yeah.
each of these. This is awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Well,
didn't
yeah.
even know you could
So,
edit in line.
that's not
Yeah.
that's a good point because I've got some different agents or sub agents that I've been using across projects. So you can bring your own agents with you. It's just a markdown file. So
Right.
passing those, can bring them around and you can definitely create them from scratch. They're just markdown files, but it is nice that within Claude Code, it can just walk you through at least getting one created and then you can go from there. So I've got this UI improvement implementer sub agent. I've also got a UI analyzer Playwright. And as the name infers, it uses the Playwright MCP to go out and take a few screenshots and actually analyze what's going on with my application as well. And so I'll just scroll through just so you can get a good look of what this looks like as well. And you can see here it's even including the instructions for the Playwright MCP server to go look at localhost 8000 and then take the screen captures that you need and then do the analysis from there. So we've got a nice little sub agent that's worked perfectly for me as well. And then this last one is the one I was just telling you about, where we're talking about making sure we're staying within the color scheme and maybe even the font if possible, and having a sub agent that strictly focuses on that. So if I scroll back up to the top of this one, we'll see that it does include some of the primary colors and secondary colors that are part of our Datadog brand. I've also asked it to make sure that it sticks within some of the things we usually give advice in internally about how we speak and
Right.
write. But there are ways that we try to like communicate consistently and just make sure that we're all on the same page. And that's exactly what this thing is intended to do, is make sure it all just sort of adheres to that. So we've got a sub agent now that handles that for me. I'm going to back all the way out of here. Now, what I can do is at this point let's say analyze app using our, what did we call it? The brand compliance checker. So analyze the app using our brand compliance checker sub agent, and then use the implementer, right? UI implementer agent to make improvements.
I also have to admit, I've not been at mentioning my agents. I've just been using a bunch of text, which I think both work. But just thinking about tokens, the at symbol is definitely shorter than what I was doing before, because I'd have to spell it out. Use your MCP server tool and then the name. This is neat.
You're right. Yeah, there are multiple ways to do it, and this is definitely something that has been a new muscle for me. Mostly because there can often be a lot of different things by a similar name, and so it's just kind of a little bit trying to recall what was the thing you named it, I guess. But as long as your memory is pretty good, it's not too bad.
This is cool.
Now you
And
can
just
see there's
out of
2 agents running in parallel here.
yeah.
The brand compliance checker and also our UI improvement implementer. Now I was kind of expecting them to not run in parallel.
And if you hit Control O, what do you see? I've had sub agents happen before, but it's more automatic, I guess, when Claude thinks it needs to do multiple things. Okay, okay, so it looks very similar to just a standard show details. Okay, and then sorry, if you get stuck in this ever, hit Control O again to pop back out. Haven't gotten stuck there before. Very neat.
Yeah. All right. Oh, now it wants to run the server
Run
for
the
us.
server and have a look. Yeah, fair enough.
Let's go ahead and allow that to do it. Although I think I may have something running on that port already.
Oh shoot.
But let's take a look. Was it 8,000?
I thought it was, yes. Oh, it's just the same site. Okay. Yeah, it did
Yeah,
load.
so nothing's changed yet, but okay.
Oh, here we go.
So here's our change suggestions. We'll go ahead and
You're
give it.
going YOLO on the front end changes. Fair enough.
That's a
I feel
demo.
the same way. Yeah.
Yeah,
When it comes to front end stuff, I'm a lot more lenient, I guess, in terms of security. But if it's Terraform code or GitHub, then I'm there. Like it's a different hat for sure. Way more cautious.
absolutely.
This is cool. I like seeing this run through two things at once. I think is maybe interesting to me. Now, one of them already finished, so it's basically it's gone through and it's done its check, and it seems to have handed off to the other. But they definitely were running at the same time for a bit. This is awesome.
And it's I don't have data to support this, but
Mm.
observationally, anecdotally, I would say that this is a little slower than it was last week using Sonnet
4.5, you
4.0.
mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does feel like, I don't know if it's just a lot of people going to the same model or the fact that by default you can't hit the other two models as far as we could tell. So it's like everyone's using the same API endpoint at the same time. My gut check is that it's just utilization. A lot of people are trying to use that at the same time. Now, did
Yeah.
that change at all?
Nothing has changed yet. So yeah, I thought I'd see trying to force a refresh, but nothing really seems different.
It definitely changed something. You could see there was an A and a B index.html. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed the new model, at least, using Git Worktrees quite a bit as well, which is kind of interesting. So a lot of times I will have LLMs create issues on GitHub and then have other LLMs pick up those issues. And what I've been noticing is that instead of working in branches, which is typically the default at ASCII, the new model 4.5 seems to be using work trees quite a bit. And I noticed because it's removing the directories when it's done. I was like, whoa, you can't be just deleting code, because a lot of times you have to approve any RM commands. And I was trying to figure out why it was deleting code. And it turns out that it's using a specific type of work tree where it's naming the branch using the issue number and the date. I'm not sure if that'll happen to you, but I found it very interesting. And it's actually pretty, like it's a good workflow because you can see exactly what it's doing, but it doesn't pollute your Git repo, which is nice. All right, that was pretty fast.
Yeah, wasn't too bad. Let's see if anything happened. So refresh here.
Oh,
Tell you what though, let me
it felt like it
sometimes.
was in b/index.html just based on what I saw.
Yeah, let's just send it to a new port.
Fair enough. It doesn't look like it changed too much.
It has not.
But I'm wondering if it changed like a different version of the site. Is it also, do those, if you click on those tabs, are those all the same? Okay, yeah, they look the same. Interesting. I wonder what changed. It definitely did change some things. I wonder if you ask the model what changed. Okay, here we go. Key findings. Oh, did it change anything? Ah, okay, gotcha. So it actually hasn't gone forward with the changes.
Yep.
What it might have done is change there's a reduced motion scrolling that I found out and some ARIA tags. I think they were mentioned in there. It may have picked up on those, but yeah, perhaps it just hasn't implemented it.
Yeah, it looks like we still got to give it some more instructions. We'll just say, it's asking, would you like me to, we got option 1, implement the purple palette, option 2, update brand guidance, and 3, review the colors together. I've been trying to get to do this option 1 for a while now here. Let's just say option 1.
Full send.
We'll give it one more time.
Yeah, exactly. I have noticed some odd stopping here and there for permission where like permission has been given in this model. And I was trying to think about like imagine you're running an API in the background. I personally would like add those checkpoints in just to help rate limit if there was like a lot of people trying to use my model at once. So I feel like some of this stuff will go away, but you obviously had told it to change the colors and it did not proceed.
In the time that we had, I didn't review things really closely, but I believe that I
Right.
was clear in the agents to take action, not
Right.
necessarily present me with the action, especially given how long it took to really do nothing.
And one of those options in there was to update the agent directives as well, which I'm not saying is as bad or good, but I've certainly had agents update their own markdown files before for good, as far as I could tell. But if you're in there trying to massage the context of just the sub agent as well, be wary that sometimes they will try to update their own markdown files.
Okay, that's good to know.
Oh, this isn't too bad. Okay, so I feel like some of these should have already taken effect at this point. Yeah, I would assume so. If you refresh that page, have these, like the box shadow and the buttons changed, I think?
There we
Hey,
go.
look at that. Okay, we're getting there. One by one. Okay. So it's done like the header, basically, and now it's moving into the rest.
Yep, starting to see some
Interesting.
progress.
Wow. It's a lot of work. I'm laughing because like this is not my forte. I'm definitely not great at the front end stuff at all, and all the help I can get is fantastic for me.
It's definitely nice to be able to, make sure you follow these guidelines and follow the color schemes that your company or your team, your podcast or whatever likes to stick with. And it's not easy necessarily to remember to do these things. So little tricks like this, I think, are definitely going to help us all.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've dealt with like external marketing or other people building microsites for you, but this brand adjustment part can often take weeks, if not months, just back and forth on like the exact font weight and the right font, the right colors. Like if something's off just by a hue, it's amazing what your C-suite will pick up when presented with options.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like it's pretty close here.
Let's see if we can
I
spot any more
yeah, I don't
changes.
know if it did the
Yeah.
heroes.
There
Okay,
you
it
go.
did do the
There's
heroes. All right.
looking a little bit
Looking better
different.
already.
Yep. Okay.
Excellent. I also noticed some stuff in there about the text, and I wondered if it would go through and change the text. It hasn't yet. I've been watching it just to see if it would change any of that prose or like just the language basically on the Core Web Vitals site, but I don't think it has. Because you had said to avoid adjectives.
Yeah.
What was it, noun clusters, which is pretty
Mhm.
common in our industry. Oh, okay. All these little things. This does feel pretty slow, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, our recording is going very long here. At this point, I'm just gonna edit it.
Yeah, fair enough, fair
But,
enough. But it,
um,
it,
but I
it
feel
does
like
feel
it's
for
worth just
CSS.
getting to the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like CSS changes were definitely a lot faster. 3.5, I think I've talked about forever. I really like for CSS, mostly because it was really fast, and I couldn't, like I should care, but I just can't really. I have a hard time caring about CSS, and watching something plow through CSS and get it done quickly for me was phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we gotta be getting real close here. It's doing documentation.
Indeed, and that's going to run tests, which is pretty cool too. That's making sure the buttons that we just changed actually work. Right on.
Okay, popped over and make sure we're on the right place here. Say for the most part, everything looks pretty good. Mission accomplished.
Looks like it.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead
And
and
it's just
no.
starting again. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that pretty much, tells the story that
Yeah.
there's a few more bells and whistles available to us from within Claude Code 2.0 or 2.0.1, whichever version you're on now. And of course, Sonnet 4.5 is supposed to be a step up. And I think the observations on my end are that they're not significant, but they're still
Right.
good. The results are good. I haven't had anything bad. Things are a little slow, and there's lots of reasons why that could be going on. But in general, I think they're also sort of setting us up to really start thinking about subagents and context engineering and those types of subjects. So feels like we're all moving in the right direction there.
Yeah, agreed. And good call out about the sub agents not just being code agents, but also design or what have you. And then I think you made a good point in terms of setting us up for success. It feels like rewind is one of those key components where maybe this is critical so we can rewind, and maybe that's why they're checkpointing so often so we can go back and ask us yes or no. But I guess the future will tell whether or not this model will speed up and become more useful. But thank you so much for sharing. I learned a lot, even if it's just at mentioning your MCP servers and saving tokens there.
Mm.
Anything I can do to keep that context window less occupied would be fantastic. So thank you very much, Jason. And
Yeah.
good to see another point of view of yet another state of the art model and a tool that we all use. Thank you.
Yeah. My pleasure. We'll talk to you later.
Bye bye.